We are here at the Office of Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development, Professor Kolawole Adebayo. Here, we are to interview him as he steps out of his office this Thursday. My name is Ordinary Ridwan, regularly known as Ijebu of Africa. Thank you. Good day, distinguished audience and esteemed viewers. I am Abdulhamid Adeyemo, and it is with immense honor that I welcome you to this special interview section. So today we are graced by the presence of an academia luminary, so someone who is very passionate about human capacity development, a distinguished leader whose contributions to the growth and development of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, has been both inspiring and deeply rooted. So it is no other person than Professor Kolawole Adebayo, so the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development of FUNAAB. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We are very glad to for this opportunity. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So with your permission, let's dive into the conversation properly. So let's first of all know you.
Well, my name is Kolawole Adebayo. I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the Federal for Development of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. My background is in agricultural extension and rural development. I've been a staff of this university since November 1995, but I also schooled here. So my journey with the university started in 1989 as a direct entry student.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So how do you typically spend your day as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor? So how hectic is the
Well, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor is actually the person responsible for research and development, partnership, collaborations, and relationship with communities for the university, reporting to the Vice-Chancellor. In that capacity, when I started this job about 2 years ago, there are 17 directorates and institutes and centers under the auspices of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development. These are the people who report directly to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development for the Vice-Chancellor. But by now, we have 21 because it has expanded quite a bit, given the expansion in the range of activities that we do in the Office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development. But that's the routine work. Then there is the aspect of being a principal officer, which means that we work with the Vice-Chancellor on the day-to-day administration of the university in terms of running the affairs of the university. We're also responsible for certain statutory organs and bodies of the university, like the Governing Council, the Senate of the university, congregation, convocation, inaugural lecture, commencement lecture. All of these organs of the university at the topmost level, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor works with the Vice-Chancellor to ensure they function. So on a regular day, personally, I start my day around 5 a.m. So that after my normal ablutions, which will end around 6:30, I proceed to the office, my personal office, where I will do some 2 hours work to about 8:30. Then I will leave there at 8:30, come to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor's office, clear any communications that is outstanding on my table. On a normal day, I might go to any of the 21 directorate centers and units for maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending on the distance of the center, unit, or directorate that is in question. Usually, there are a number of meetings, scheduled meetings, principal officers meeting, other meetings of the university that I also attend to from about 11 usually till about 3 or 4, depending on the day. Then in between that, I also have to attend to my students. I have postgraduate students. I have a few that I supervise. I also have courses that I teach. So I do that mostly on Mondays and Thursdays. Then occasionally, I attend the departmental seminar on Wednesday in the morning between 10 and 1. So this is usually kind of my rough day. There are exceptions to this when I had to, spend a full day in one of the centers that I work with, or there are a period when I had to represent the Vice-Chancellor or deputize for the Vice-Chancellor, in which case my normal routine is shaking because I have to then do quite a bit of other things. So yes, it's not a very defined schedule, but it's quite a very busy schedule.
So my own opinion was even that apart from the supervising of the directorates, so the office is maybe just to sign. So but now just to sign some pending contract and everything. So now, but now knowing that you even have a student to supervise, you even take courses, and managing it with the responsibility of the.
Because the Deputy Vice-Chancellor is first and foremost a professor of the respective department, and the office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor is for 2 years, which is renewable or not renewable. The office of being a professor in the university is continuous until retirement at age 70. So yeah, one has to pay attention to be on the forefront both of teaching and research, and of course conferences, seminars, and so on as important as that it is.
So I was at the alumni annual intervention scholarship program earlier this section. So, and one of the things you said that day that I registered into my brain is that you said, don't allow your background to put your back to the ground. So in light of that, can you share with us your background growing up as a kid, some of the schools you attended, and your accession to the post of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development of FUNAAB?
Well, I started my early days in Ibadan, where I was born.
I'm from Ibadan too, sir.
Well, I'm not a native. My mom is a native of Ibadan. Then my dad is from Odiremo in Remo North local government area of Ogun State. But we settled in Ibadan, so I was born in Ibadan. I did my early school, Ayodele Samuel Memorial School at Molete in Ibadan. That's where I did my secondary. I did a bit of secondary schooling at Odiremo High School, then went back to Ibadan High School, where I finished my school cert. After that, I went to the School of Agriculture in Akure. School of Agriculture Akure used to be under the University of Ife, Obafemi Awolowo University, but later it's now a monotechnic, Federal College of Agriculture in Akure. So I did 2 years diploma there. I had a distinction, and I got admission to Obafemi Awolowo University, then University of Ife, as a direct entry student, but I couldn't continue because I lost my dad, so I had to withdraw from that offer. I took up an appointment with the Ogun State Agricultural Development Program, OGADEP, here in Abeokuta. I was posted to Mokoloki in Obafemi Awolowo local government as the agricultural extension officer. I did that for 3 years. Having saved what I thought was enough money, I decided to return to the university as a direct entry student. By that time, FUNAAB had been established as UNAB, then at the mini campus. So I joined as a direct entry student in 1989. And graduated, of course, as the best all-round graduating student of the university in the 1992-93 academic session. So I then went on, of course, to serve at Cross River, Yako local government area of Cross River State. After national service, of course, I was called back to the university as a graduate assistant. Of course, from then, my career started in 1995 as a graduate assistant, and I became a professor in 2013. I did my inaugural lecture in 2016 here in this university. At various times, I've been the Deputy Dean of Students, I've been the Chairman of MANCOT, I have been the Deputy Director at the Directorate of Grants Management, became the Director of Grants Management for 3 years. I was then appointed Director of Academic Planning, a post that I didn't finish. It was supposed to be 3 years, but I had 6 weeks before I was voted at Senate to become the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development of the university. But as an undergraduate student of the university, I belong to so many clubs and associations within the university, and therefore today I've become either a staff advisor or a patron of almost all of these clubs and additional ones.
Yes, okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing that with us. So over the past year, so you have piloted a lot of developmental initiatives so that have positively linked FUNAAB. So could you highlight some of those achievements for us and why those achievements stand out to you?
Okay.
Why those achievements stand out to you?
Okay, the structure of the university is such that the vision that is being pursued at any point in time, where things are going well, is the vision of the Vice-Chancellor. So as Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I don't have a vision of my own. Well, I have a vision of my own, but the vision of the Vice-Chancellor is the vision we are pursuing. So everything we have done in the last 2 years is actually pursuing the vision of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olusola Babatunde Kehinde. So he has set up this vision, and in terms of the office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development is to ensure that we are more efficient in our farming and research activities, so that we generate a higher level of income, internally generated income, that is then able to support the academic activities of the university. So we have gone into a very large number of partnerships. So you see that over the last 2 years, we've signed so many memorandums of agreement, memorandum of understanding. Standing out among this, of course, you know the asset right YAM project, you know the NOLAP project, the Soilless Agri that FPY students are part of now. You are aware of our, we are now a center for the German embassy in Nigeria. So if you want to go to Germany, in FUNAAB, there's a desk office for the German embassy. We signed that agreement with them. We have this Africa 50-50. We have 50 universities in Africa were paired with 50 universities in China. So FUNAAB and Laozo University were paired together. Under that, we signed that agreement. We have our agreement with the Dutch embassy, the Netherlands embassy in Nigeria for academic and research development. We then went beyond that. There is a research on sorghum that we are currently doing with a team from China. 2 Chinese universities and 2 companies signed an agreement with us to develop sorghum that can be grown in the tropical belt of Nigeria. More recently, with a team called Optima Quantum Limited, based in Europe, we have just we are going into a new agreement where we are working what is called quantum equilibrium, where you could remotely restructure plants or animal to grow more favorably, to become more high yielding. So you can increase the productivity of agricultural product by more or less remote energy manipulations. That's groundbreaking. Dr. Kehinde of Tolulope Kehinde of PBST is leading this with us. Of course, in the last 2 years, we have also established the status of the university as a university of choice when it comes to agriculture, sustainable environment, the food sciences, and all. So we have adopted 2 institutions, the Federal College of Agric in Ibadan, More Plantation, and the Oyo State College of Agriculture and Technology, Oystertech in Igbora. We have adopted them so that they can award degrees of the university in their institution. We were able to surpass this. So we have also positioned our university such that the Times Higher Education 2024 rated us as the best university of agriculture in Africa, 7th best in the whole world. So all of these come together are the things that this current team, under the leadership of the Vice-Chancellor, are able to do in the aspect of development. Of course, you can't forget the solar farm which has now come into operation, taking us away from the national grid, and we are now totally, our entire 10,000 hectares is totally and absolutely powered with this solar project. So all of these have happened. I couldn't say because I'm the DVCD, but because I'm part of a team led by the Vice-Chancellor that is making the environment conducive for all of this to happen. You would also note that last year, the Kampala-Bata road was terrible, but now there is some improvement. It takes a lot of community relationship to get all of those to happen. And the goodwill that we are gaining is because, of course, the kind of university that will proceed to the outside world to say that this is a university you could do business with, and we will ensure that you do not regret that relationship. So for me, those are a few of the things that I can remember within this few minutes.
Okay, thank you so much, and those are very great achievements. But then some of the agricultural aspects you mentioned, apart from the asset rights, the NOLAP, and 1 or 2 other like that I know, and that my team member know, and that's because we are even FUY students. So students don't get to know most of these things. Are those agricultural enterprise or aspects related only to postgraduate students? Because we undergraduates don't really get to hear about those.
Okay, at undergraduate level, your best source of information will be the bulletin, the university bulletin, which is available online. But most students don't even bother to read it. These things are published almost every other day on the bulletin. The FUNAAB radio also,
Facebook page.
Auto carries on our social media and those, but of course most students don't do that. And the student union have been trying to mimic the university bulletin in terms of getting information out. But you realize that when you are in 100 level, 200 level, you don't fully feel part of the university. It's only when you are getting to 300, 400 that you begin to get involved. And that's why most of the people who know that these things are happening are either in their 300 or 400 level or possibly going into final year. So that happens in one end. The other end is that, quite frankly speaking, until you are into your CWES or FPY, you are not thinking of enterprises yet.
Yes.
So whatever happened in the university is, where's my timetable? Go to class, go to lecture, do exam, get your result. So it takes some time for students to evolve into that, and that's what you are seeing. But I totally agree with you that perhaps the PRO of the student union could be linked more closely with the public relations units of the university, so that in addition to the public relations unit publicizing this thing on the university platform, the PRO of the student union would also take it on himself or herself to publicize it on student platforms. I know that, you know, when it comes to bragging, because I follow a number of student online activity, FUNAAB students can brag. But all of these things that I'm telling you now, when FUNAAB students talk about it, you would think every student is just taking it, you know, offline and saying, but yes, we could do a bit more on that aspect. I mean, for instance, the Alumni Association just took 2,000 acres of land for the alumni farm up,
yes,
you know, within the university. And that is, you know, also coming on. And you see, quite a number of our students are also entrepreneurs in their own right because of the environment that has been created. If you've been to many other universities, not so many students have entrepreneurial spirits that FUNAAB students display. So in a sense, this environment is influencing the outlook of FUNAAB students. Look at all the commercial businesses opposite the university campus. More than 70% is owned either by current students or former students of the university. That is very uncommon. When you go to other universities, usually it's the people in the community that would own those businesses. And for us, at least for me as an outgoing DVC development, I'm very proud of that.
Thank you, sir. So thank you so much for that. So they say every great leaders they meet with challenges during the course of service. So can you tell us some of the major challenges you've encountered during your tenure and how you were able to overcome them?
Okay, to a large extent, I think what we try to do as a team is to nip any potential challenges in the bud. And the very great thing we've done is to build relationships with students, with staff, with communities. We try to build a kind of relationship that allows people to say, look, I'll go to DVC or I'll go to VC. And that open access policy had helped us a lot. For instance, very early on when I became DVC, within the first 2 or 3 months that I became DVC, there was this issue of the COP. Using COP or not using COP in the university. It was a major challenge for us as a team. But because of the openness of dialogue and discussion, what could have exploded and lead to locking down the university and so on, you know, was just resolved within a week. Everybody was doing their business as if nothing had happened again. We've had a number of incidents where students' rights have been trampled upon, you know, either by surrounding community or, you know, and they have been treated. And the beautiful thing about all of these challenges is because we're able to nip it in the bud. It doesn't escalate. You know, for instance, you heard that some universities closed down because they couldn't pay electricity bill and never cut their. We didn't allow that to happen. Not that we were not having the same challenges.
Negotiations.
You know, the amount of money the federal government gives us to run the university is so small. It's less than 10% of what is required to actually run the university. So unless we are proactive by, you know, running the higher level of internally generated revenue, we will be unable to meet our needs. And when we don't meet those needs, there will be, you know, problem all over the places. Academic staff will protest, students will protest, everybody will protest. But because we intend to nip some of these things in the bud, our diesel bill is over 60 million before the solar farm came into operation. Then, you know, we put all our effort into it, ensuring that the solar farm came on, and now we've reduced the diesel bill. If we didn't do what we did with collaboration with partners and friends and so on, there will still be problem. Look at the Camp Alabata Road. It was a major challenge for our university. It could have, you know, in other situation, it could have escalated into trouble. But we managed the relationship, we pacified our students, we pacified our staff, we went to the state government, we went to the federal government, we went to senators. You know, we interacted with quite a number of people, and then the problem became solved, or at least solved to some extent, that the stakeholders could see that, oh, these people are doing something. So even if somebody wants to create problem through that means, other people will say, what else now? Maybe they are working on it. And that is the way we've been able to manage the situation. I mean, there's an unfortunate incident, is it 2 days ago, when we lost a student around camp. In other universities, that could have escalated. By now, they would have closed the camp, Ibadan Abeokuta Road, the university would have been shut, students would have been told to go home. But we have tried to create an environment where we could talk to each other, where we could pacify ourselves, where students are more matured in their approach to things. If those environments were not created, we would have had so much challenges. But thank God, even just last week, we elected the people representing congregation in various committees of the university, including council. In some universities, that will have divided the campus. People will have been fighting. We've done ASU election, we've done SANU election, we've done NAT election, all with, and we are currently even doing student union elections. Yet everything is calm. It's not magic. It took some astute mind, with fine leadership from our Vice-Chancellor, and of course with a good team working with him to ensure that these challenges do not get to a stage where it becomes public notice. And when it doesn't become public notice, people tend to feel that, oh, these people have no problem. We had our problems. Some of the examples I've given you, but, by managing it, very well, it doesn't escalate to a situation where people will say, FUNAAB, we don't have that. In fact, our students would hardly cause havoc in society.
Yes, kudos to us FUNAABites.
Oh, FUNAABites.
So thank you so much, Safko, for that. And I would love to mention one thing about that, the camp particularly. So before, if you have a class by 9 and you want to take the market, you want to board the market, so you have to at first you have to leave your hostel and get to that park by 8. So because of the road, the park, the markets we use about 45 1 hour
to get to campus.
So but now, if you have class by 9, so you can conveniently get to that park, to the Marcos Park by 8:30. So the rest assured that Marcos between 20-25 minutes
they will be on campus,
and that has been a relief for FUNAAB. Especially those of us who stay at campus.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. You mentioned about when I asked about your day. So you mentioned you start your day by 5 a.m. you pray. So and of course I do see you at mosque, Juma, and the small mosque all the time. So which is a testament that you hold on to your religion very well. So I would love you to give a few words to our viewers, particularly the youth and the students who think holding on to religion is an hindrance to success.
Okay, you see, religion is a very powerful tool to moderate every human being. Without religion, we are no different from animals. I mean, we eat, we drink, they eat, they drink, we live, we die, they live, they die, we reproduce, they reproduce. What makes us different? We believe. And belief is something that you are not very certain because you have not seen it. You cannot put your hand on it to say that, okay, this is God, this is heaven, this is hell. But you've been told, you've been given example, you've been given guidance, and you believe. And because you believe, you tend to behave in certain ways that are compatible with decent human living. Whether you are a Muslim, a Christian, even when you are a traditional religion worshipper, you are given a set of codes that guides your behavior among human beings, within your deen and outside of your deen. And by holding on to that, you hold on to hope. And people who refuse to do that tend to lose hope faster and tend to misbehave in human society. So I'm a firm believer that every young person should be brought up within a religious scope. I've been lucky that I was brought up as a Muslim. Not everybody had that opportunity. Okay, but having had the opportunity of being brought up as a Muslim and adopting that code and allowing that code to guide my life has been enriching. And I believe that every young person who allows himself to be guided by a religious dictate, the chances that they will misbehave in society is very minimal. Not that they couldn't, because you could be taught and refuse to accept. But once you hold on to your deen, then you would be an asset to community. And that has been very helpful in my own life.
Okay, so dear viewers, this is to you that you don't need to neglect your religion. Religion is not an hindrance to success
at all. If anything is an help. Look at someone like me. Perhaps if I was not a Muslim, waking up at 5 o'clock would not have been a regular thing for me. Usually, my day is structured such that almost all the time for prayer is a kind of break for me. So, eat my lunch, say a few words of prayer, and then proceed on. By evening, by the time we finish Maghrib, I'm already looking forward to going to bed. By the time I finish Isha, I'm off because I know that 5 a.m. tomorrow I'm starting again. So that has helped me structure my life. Maybe if I was not a Muslim, that structure would have been more difficult to adopt.
So, okay, sir. Thank you so much. Before the last one, so as your tenure comes to an end, do you have some particular project or things you are looking forward to achieving, whether within the academic space or outside of it?
Of course, I'm never idle. That's a common. But my foremost thing now is I'm going back to my cassava and maize projects, which are both research and development projects. I'm going to focus a lot more on that. So you guys are FPY students. You might see me asking for volunteer FUI students to work with me both on the farm, in the processing shed, and in the marketing arm of the cassava and maize project. Maybe later on I might bring in my West African dwarf goat project. I might then bring, I also have some interest in fish farming, catfish farming. Well, you've been to my house at Amuni, so I have a number of dugouts there that I might revive. But of course, doing all that, I'm going back to my department as a professor in the department. I'm going to maybe increase the teaching load that I engage in. So I will do quite a bit of that in the coming months. And of course, I intend to write a new manual for agricultural extension students, so that from 200 level to 400 level, there's a manual guiding agricultural extension and rural development practicals. Currently, there are none throughout the country. Wow. And I believe it's time we do have it, so that from 200, 300, and 400 level, you are properly guided. If you are in agriculture generally, you take the 200 and the 300 level one. Then if you're in agriculture extension, there'll be some emphasis at 400 level on the kind of practical skills that you need to know before leaving school. Yeah. So I hope to do either a single manual or 3 manual, or a single manual with 3 volumes, or 3 manual, whichever works. But I hope to spend some time to work on that. I also hope that I would have some time to do another book on comparative extension systems. I think we need a Nigerian-focused book on comparative extension system. There are other books, will focus on America, on Europe, and using Africa as just some slight sort in it. But there are none that are written by Nigerian authors looking at the rest of the world from Nigeria perspective. So, yeah, I'm going to be quite busy.
May God make them possible. So, and I hope you get to write that book, the manual for the extension, before we graduate.
You might not use it. As I said, yes, by the time those books are ready, if you are in school, you are possibly in final year battling with your project. But at least, you can refer it. If some of you become lecturer, you can refer it to your students, or you can even say, oh, I know the author of this book. It's probably good enough for you to so,
Thank you, sir. So before I ask my own last question, so I would love to give my team member, if they have questions,
1 or 2 questions. We have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Yes.
And sir, it's a pleasure to have a session with you. And one of those things I really admire about you is the proactiveness. You coming to, the first time I met you personally was when you came to farm, and you were putting the managers ahead of what they should do, of which it is not just the book by the office, by the signing, by the memorandums, but by the practical practical activeness. So there is one thing I want to ask. One of those things under your coordination, you have 21 unit of centers under you, and I have seen development. I went through those units and I saw development. Also the media part of the school, and it has been a different change from when we started. So I want to ask a question. What is behind your what is behind your proactiveness, that it is not based on just one scope but different aspects?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm a self-motivated person. Personally, once I take an assignment, I look at its current state and I begin to think almost continuously every day, what else could I do? What else could make that place better or different? And as the idea comes around, I run it by the people who are directly in charge. Can we do this? What's stopping us from doing this? And we try to find solutions together. And in most cases, my subordinates tend to hone those things. Once I discuss it with them, can we do this? Oh, we have this challenge, we have that challenge. Okay, supposing we solve this one, you can do this, I can do this. And then they begin to say, oh yeah, we can do it. And they own it. I don't need to be hammering it on them. I don't need to threaten them. I don't need to, and they make it happen. And for me, that's an additional motivation to do more. That, if I have an idea and I said, bro, can we do it this way? And I leave it with him. And because he buys into it, he runs with it and he's looking well, that motivates me to say, oh, let's do more. And all my life, I've never done just one thing at a time. I'm not that kind of person. I do everything as they come to me, and alhamdulillah, it's been most successful. But that's who I am as a person, and that's what I bring to anything you invite me to. If you say, oh, come, let us clean this road, I'm already thinking, okay, shall we use broom? Can we use rake? Do we need any cutlass? My brain is, how else can we do it? I'm not thinking, if they don't give us tractor, we cannot do it. I'm not that kind of person. Yes, a tractor will be good if we have it. But the fact is we don't have it, and we are not likely to get it anytime soon. So maybe we should take cutlass and use it as efficiently as we can use it. Maybe we can, as we are using our cutlass, be toasting people who will buy tractor for us, or we can expand our farm such that we can raise enough money to buy tractor by ourselves. Then I'm not going to wait. If we don't buy tractor, we are not going to do anything. That's not me. For instance, look at the Mancoff buses. When I came in, none of them was working at all 2 years ago. But I went to the Vice-Chancellor. I said, these buses are bad, but there are many of them. Supposing we can bring some of them up, use the part of one, just to, without taking money from the university, just put it together, get students to pay a certain amount of money, not to make profit, but to ensure that those buses continue to work. And it becomes imperative because we're already having loads of students outside, struggling to get transport. Commercial transports were failing to use our road because of the bad condition of the road. And the Vice-Chancellor said, okay, if you can do it. And I called Professor, the immediate past chairman of that committee, Oladwe. I called him, I said, look, Aburo, we need to do these things. As David CD, I can't do it myself, but if you can help me organize it. And he said, no problem. So we went there, we identified three of the buses, and we said, okay, we can't do the three at the same time, which is the lowest hanging fruit. So we took that one. Okay, how much do we need? Maybe we need 150 there. You bring 50, take 100, go and repair it. I'm going to get my money back, So we fixed it. We went to Mafas. Okay, Mafas, we want to run these buses. We don't have money. Can you give us 60 liters of diesel? When we finish working for the day, we'll come and pay. He said, okay, no problem. So that bus worked on that day, and the students were relieved. And, they pay. So we went back. Okay, Mafas, this is the money for diesel. Tomorrow, we are going to take another one. But my 100 here, give me my money back. You too, take your 50 back. And at the end of that month, 3 of those buses were on the road using the same principle. And, roughing it. Occasionally, we go to ventures and say, please, borrow us 2 million. We need to fix a hub. We need to buy tire. We need to do this. And as soon as we make money, we pay back. 2 years on, those buses are still working. We even added one. There are 4 now. Yes. Okay. We didn't buy a new bus. We didn't get anybody to sponsor us. We struggled. We tried to find sponsors to even donate buses to us. And I think one politician is going to give us mini buses. He promised last week. Maybe they are going to fulfill it this week. 5 mini buses. Because we've been doing beggy anywhere we could beg. So these are about relationship, and that's the way I operate. I don't say because the VC cannot buy bus, we are not going to work. We don't do that. Okay, what do we have? What can we do? We talk to the tricycles, we talk to the Kolawole people, we talk to the commercial. They all complained about the road and said, don't worry, we will try our best. So we went and begged another politician who helped us to fix it from his constituency project thing. So that's my way. It's the way of pragmatism. What can work? It's not, hey, will it work? I don't do that. I do, okay, what can work? Even in this office, we are supposed to be 11 running this office. But there were times when only 2 or 3 of us will run the entire office. So long as it works. And my staff know it. Let's get these things done. It's not perfect, but we could get it done.
So for me, being a leader, I've seen first-hand process on how negotiation works. And I know that in your office, you'd be doing a lot of negotiating, peacemaking, decision-making. And to be honest, negotiation is not... because this past week I've been negotiating with something and we're not able to come to a common ground. So how do you do it and you make sure that, okay, you are benefiting and the other party is benefiting? It's not like you are losing and then they are benefiting. Okay,
it's not easy as you've rightly observed. And in my role as a patron of the student union, when every new administration of student union comes in, they come to me and I try to guide them and say, look, you'll be negotiating a lot. And this is how you negotiate, this is what you do. And that's what I also bring to board. Every time you are going for negotiation, you always have your list of demands. Don't enter into a negotiation without a list of demands. Then, the second thing you take with you is your fallback position. Because you know that you cannot get 100%. If you get 100% good, though, I'm not saying, so you go there to ask for actually 120% or 150. So you are aiming to get 100. Then you also have a fallback position. Before you go, even before you meet with the other party, you say, okay, even if we get 60%, that's good enough. We'll go back. So before you leave your people, the people you are representing, you will tell them that 60% that was your fallback position. You will tell them that is the 100% that you are going for. So you never overpromise. You never tell your followers that 100% or nothing. You don't ever do that. When you do that, you put yourself in jeopardy. because then you are unable to deliver, and then you look like a bad person. Even when you bring 90%, you have still not done enough. So you promise your followers, 60%, that's our 100%. If they try to drag you higher, you say, hey, let's take it one step at a time. You trust me as your leader. This one, we will fight it. That's what you tell your followers. Then within your team, you agree that, well, that thing that we told them, that's the fallback position. Now, what are we taking out? That's your 100% or 150% or 200%, depending on what you inherited. 100% is what you want. But the people before you have been struggling for certain things that they didn't get. You had them to your 100%. Those are not your battle. Those are inherited battles. You had them to your 100%. So you go into negotiation and they say, oh, okay, what do you want? So you roll out 200% or 150%. That's your own 100. The carryover of or everyone you can remember, you put it on the table. And they say, this is not what we are expecting. We cannot do this at all. If the other party, like there have been times when I've told the student union this, I think it was Meshach team. They came to me, I've told them this, and then by the time they were negotiating with management, I was already in management. So I know their strategy, and they possibly already guess what strategy I'm going to bring. And so we have to come. So even us as management, before we come to meet them, we have to look. This is what we will start with. This is where we are going. So you might throw it on the floor and we say, that your 200% could possible, or do you want us to shut down? We are going to give you 20%. So you will say, no, I don't want 20%. Possible. So we'll go back. So you never blink first. It's like a blinking game. You never blink first. You wait for them to blink. So that, at the time, you say, okay, we have to go and consult our people. Even when they give you the 60% that you promise your people, because they also have their own informants who would have told them in Congress, that's what they want to get. So they would have known that, maybe. And you say, and they have offered you that. Say, well, we have listened to you, but we can't make any promises. So you never blink first. You never just say, okay, we accept, and go to your people. Even when they give you 100%, even when they give you 120%, you must never leave the negotiation table by giving assurance to the other party that, don't worry, we will go and convince them. No. Because you might get back, and your people say, even that 100% is not enough again. You won't have any trading tool to say we have done well. Even if your followers say, we don't believe you, then you must be able to empirically say, look, before I left this conference, I told you we are going to achieve this, which was your own 60%. Now I'm back to you. I'm not only bringing that 60% that I promised you, there are these jara that have come in. Maybe those jara are not in your 100%. Maybe it's in the ones that the other group have been asking for that they didn't get. And so they add that to your 60%, so that when you go back to your people, say, my people,
I'm done well.
We have shown them pepe.
Well.
I not only got you this what I promised, but I also got you this jara. And then you look good as a leader. And looking good as a leader is important because it gives you confidence to represent your people and represent them well. But the moment you are undermined by the fact that you are unable to deliver on your promises, then leading becomes difficult. And at that point, it might just be worthwhile to say, well, I want to quit. Let somebody else take over. That's when you know whether he was politically motivated or not. Because sometimes they politically motivate, no matter what you achieve, they just don't want to get. Some people want to get there.
Everything.
So God be the glory. You have done your own. Whatever you have been, you cannot be unbeen.
So that's I think the power of negotiation is another discussion entirely. Perhaps you come another day.
You have overspent your time by 10 minutes.
So thank you so much, Dasha, for the opportunity. We really appreciate that. And lastly is that for those of us just coming up, so what are the top 3 advice you give us that we should live with, or principles that we should live with to become successful in life?
As an upcoming person, have a clear vision. Very clear idea that, okay, in 30 years, this is where I want to be. It doesn't mean that's where you will be, but it means that you have a direction. You know the general. You might surpass it. You might not even meet it. You might even change your mind on the road, but you are doing it consciously. That's important. I want to be Vice-Chancellor. That's the vision. Okay? And there are certain things that are required for you to be Vice-Chancellor. First, you have to finish with a 2-2 at least. Most preferably 2-1. Even better if it's a first class. So if you already have that in mind, from say 200 level or 100 level, you face your academic quality. So even if people are saying education is a scam, you know that I need to get this. Then you know that immediately I finish service, I have to come back for masters, because you can't become Vice-Chancellor unless you have masters. Immediately I finish masters, I have to do PhD. Then I have to get a job in the university. So all of that is guiding you towards that vision. Let's say after you now got your PhD, you now realize, this you will go on, this you low. I want to be what's an additional position, Director General of African Development Bank. Hey, that's where there is money. So you change your mind. But a PhD is not wasteful at that stage. And then maybe instead you have done like 2 or 3 years in the university, you now say, okay, I want to work in a development bank. I want to. So that's the new path that you set for yourself. But because you have a clear path, there's something always that is driving you on that path. And when you change, you know where you are changing to. You are not changing into nothing. So that's key. Second thing is you need to manage your time very well. You've got only 24 hours in every day. You can't have 25 hours. You can't have. So if you don't manage those 24 hours very well, your time is going. Who knows? Maybe one will live long. But supposing one does not live long, you know? So you only have those 24 hours every day and you manage them as effectively as possible. No frivolities, no things that are not contributing in any way to your vision, including relaxation. But sometimes you need to relax and you factor that into your 24 hours. You can't create a 25th hour for relaxation. So time management is important. You know, you want to marry, you want to have time with your children, you want to have children, you know, it's all part of your overall time management. Then finally, don't take anybody for granted. Whether they are younger, powerless, or older, powerful, don't take anybody for granted. And if I may add a bonus one, don't go to anybody to beg for anything that you have no ability to give anything to. And I would explain that. You want to go to the Vice-Chancellor to beg him to pay your school fees because he's a rich man. Okay? But before you do that, ask yourself, what can I give in return to the Vice-Chancellor? Maybe I could help him wash his car. That's the lowest. You don't need money to do that. If the man wakes up in the morning, alone for what to me is you. You have already endeared yourself to him. So by the time you are saying, because I need to raise money for my school fees, that's covered. Where you go to him, we need you to help us pay school fees. And the man looks at you. You have hand, you have leg, you have eyes. Why can't you use all these faculties by yourself? So if he doesn't give you, he's absolutely entitled not to give you. And it's the same thing whether he's a boss, whether he's a politician, whether it's anybody, whether even your parents. Don't go to your parents every time. What can you do? Have you weeded the compound? Have you swept the compound? Have you ironed their cloth? What are you giving? You always have something to give. I'm not asking you to give your virginity or anything. I'm just saying, you know,
This take note of that.
you have to give something dignifying. And there is no person who is helpless who cannot give something. It is a kind word. There are people who that's all they need in life. Just somebody to tell them, or daddy, good morning, sir. You know, if you live in a community and there's one person you always greet every morning, the day you don't greet that person will know that something is wrong. If that person has a wherewithal to give you food that day, food is covered. So don't ever always see yourself as helpless. There's something you could do at any point in time. That's a bonus.
Thank you so much, sir, for having us. We really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Once we cannot express our gratitude. So we thank you for the amazing insights you've shared with us. So if there are some things that I've taken out from this discussion is that sometimes it's not even sometimes a tree cannot make a forest. So you have to surround yourself with people of vision, with good teams. And to those of you watching, so Prof have added 4 things that you should keep to for you to be successful in life. So the first one is that you should have a clear vision and also manage your time very well. Don't take anybody for granted. That is the third one. And lastly is that give something in
you always have something
what
to
you
give.
are expecting. So use what you have to get what you need positively. So thank you so much for having us. This is Campus Leader FUNAAB. I am Abdulhamid Alabi, and we have been with Professor Kolawole Adebayo, to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of FUNAAB, and we have my teammate here, Ridwan Odnaya Africa, and we have the Testima Abdulhafiz here, and behind the camera is Abdurrashid, popularly known as Lakeside. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.